Welcome to H3, the show about health, happiness, and hope. I am Allan Friesen, also known as the Acapellist, and with me is Brother Scott Sweetman. How's it going tonight there, Brother Scott?
It's going great. It's been a nice day. We had some good sunshine here in southern Alberta. The temperature was pleasant, and no forecast for snow or other nastiness for the weekend. So
Woo-hoo. I think winter is getting behind us pretty quick here.
It is. Slowly, it's kind of creeping and starts and stops. But yeah, I think we're getting there. There's been warmth in the sun, which is how us old farmers tell if we're actually heading into spring or not. Sunny days, fine, but until there's actual warmth in the sun, nothing's growing, right? So
exactly. So I know you have a theme for us tonight, but one thing that I want to do is just share this one thing, and I'll just click on it so it'll show up here.
Nice.
My bride and I, Corolla and I, have taken a course to teach a course, and it's about happiness. And that we're not saying we're experts in happiness. We're going to learn with our students as we go. But basically, it's through this organization called Action for Happiness. And so we are going to have a course, and this is the link to get registered for that course. It starts on I think it's May 3rd. So Sunday, May 3rd, and it's 6 consecutive Sundays from 7 until 9 p.m. So if you would like to join us in that course, the Action for Happiness folks will ask you if you would wish to make a donation. But if you choose that you want to do it and not make a donation, you could certainly still participate. So Action for Happiness, a course that we took to be able to teach the course. And we would love to have you participate in it. And I think I'm going to learn a lot doing it. And hopefully there's something for our viewers who would like to do that as well. So, yeah. So I'll just leave that one. Do you think I just leave that up, or is it going to be too distracting?
Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay, I'll just leave it up. If somebody sees that and they want to engage in the course, that's how they go about it. So, yeah.
And I'll add it to the Acapellist and the H3 Facebook page, as well as mine and yours. So if people want to sign up there, I just want to say that, Allan doesn't get, and Corolla don't get paid for this. It's something they're doing to better the community. Action for Happiness is a big foundation that raises a lot of money. They started in the UK, if memory serves me correctly, and the donations help the services they provide worldwide. Their focus is really simple to understand. They want to take action that will improve the happiness and well-being of everyone, and they don't believe there should be a barrier to those things, or that time or economics should be a hurdle to getting happier or improving your wellness. Would you say that was correct, Allan?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. They seem like just very sincere people who want to make a difference in people's happiness. And we're not saying we, like Corolla and I, have all the answers, but just like anything else, when you teach something, you learn it, right? So kind of our thought is that it would be something that will help us develop some health habits, which would be good for us, as well as hopefully of value to the people who want to participate in it. So, yeah.
Well, and I want to add in a little endorsement of Corolla, because of course, being her husband, it's hard for you to do that. Well, I mean, you can, but of course you're biased. But I know Corolla from her horses. She's an exceptional horse trainer and a teacher. And that comes from a huge amount of empathy, allowing her to put herself in the place of the animals and people she works with. And I used to train horses. Corolla and I have very similar philosophies it's about educating the animal. It's not about forcing them. It's not about, scaring them. It's not about making them, breaking them. It's about training an athlete and recognizing the limits and the challenges that particular athletic animal can take. Corolla does an amazing job of that. She's very straightforward and direct. She doesn't beat around the bush with stuff, and she's honest and caring. And I think that the balance between Allan and her style is going to be really good. I look forward to taking the course myself, and I think that one of the cool things about Corolla and Allan's relationship that I've observed is they're willing to disagree if they think that they have a different point of view that's valid. And I think that that comes from a healthy place where you can, you feel comfortable saying, yeah, I understand your point, but I want to add to that, or I want to say, this could be another point to that. So I think you're going to do a great job as a team, and I really encourage people to sign up, for a donation, or if you can't, you're not in a place where you can donate, then don't worry about it. It's free. Sign up, and you'll definitely walk away with something, right? So
I'm certainly optimistic. Yeah, I know I'm going to learn something in the process, and I'm certainly optimistic that the people who register and show up for it as well, spend a couple hours with us every Sunday for 6 weeks, are certainly going to learn some valuable skills in terms of encouraging, bolstering happiness in their lives. Right? I mean, basically, the whole course that we took, really, there's kind of three fundamentals that they focus on: being present, being grateful, being kind. Those are kind of the three fundamentals that the course is going to be based on. I'm sure. I actually haven't. We're going to do a little trial run. We haven't done it yet, but that's going to be the three things that I'm sure they're going to be stressing, because that's the course that I took. That's what it was all about. Those three fundamentals, right? And that you can't. I don't think there's ever any wrong could come focusing on those: being present, being grateful, and being kind. So,
yeah, and
but
from when I read about it, when you told me about it, is that the whole point is you and Kroll aren't going to be there lecturing people. You must do this. These are the 10 points you have to do to be happy. If you don't do them, you're going to be miserable. It's about sharing and opening up some possibilities that people may not have considered on their own. That's the great part about being human, is that there's always possibilities, opportunities, mysteries for us to experience and explore, and for other people to introduce us to through sharing and their own personal experience. So
exactly.
it's going to be a good time. Alan Kroll have both lived interesting and exciting lives. I've been involved in helping the community in a lot of different ways, and I look forward to when I can take the course too. So
Perfect. But for tonight, you
tonight,
have
back
prepared
on
a theme.
topic.
You
Yes,
have
so
prepared a theme.
I do, and it's one that is really interesting, and it's one that it's close to home. It's occurring in Alberta. It has been occurring in Alberta. I'm going to check my notes quick so that I don't lie to our listeners or viewers. It's been happening in Alberta since 2018, which I think is very interesting because I don't think a lot of people are aware of it. And that's the creation and implementation of virtual hospital wards.
Good. I'm going to learn something tonight. Virtual hospital awards. Okay, that sounds
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, and this is an idea that has been floated in a lot of different countries. Some people say, well, it's just, home care. Well, it goes beyond home care, and it's particularly aimed at people with complex cases or case management. And the University of Alberta has done a lot of study into this. They've helped advise the University of Alberta Hospital. The University of Alberta Hospital has saved my life, so I can say that the people there are very good and certainly competent. But since the program was launched in 2018, 130 patients have been admitted and treated in the virtual hospital. And the results as of June 30th, 2019, so 4 years ago and a bit, the average length of stay in the virtual hospital was 60 days, and the average age of the patient was 76.
So how's this work exactly? The virtual hospital is there just connecting. They're in their own homes, in their own beds, beds or homes, whatever they need for that, and then they're just also connected like via video type things on a daily basis, or all the time, like a continuous thing, or how does it work?
Well, this is very, very interesting. And so I'll give examples from the Alberta case because we're in Alberta, but I can pull from England, the US, and other places that are using it. So um, it normally takes place in the home or in a place that's comfortable or familiar to the patient rather than a traditional ward. One thing to note is that the people that in Alberta that were chosen um, often had really extensive and complex cases. So most commonly were congestive heart failure or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. On average, the patients had 10 medical problems each. They were on 8 to 15 medications, and they were being treated on average by 5 specialty medical teams.
Whew.
So yeah, this goes beyond home care or
Right.
telehealth.
Yeah.
This is a very high level of care. Monitoring equipment can be very complex, and that's something that's really changing. I think I mentioned before I use a CPAP machine, right?
Hmm.
Constant airway pressure. Can't remember what the last one is. Anyway, it's
I think it's positive airway pressure, like
yeah,
constant
yeah.
positive airway pressure, I think is what it is. So does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Bottom line is the thing blows into you, your nose or your mouth, because often when you sleep, more men than women, more so if you're a bit overweight, more so if you're a snorer, is that you actually stop breathing.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised when they do a sleep test, they're talking like under 19 what are the incidents, which is where you stop breathing, is pretty normal-ish. You're not into the sort of advanced until you go past 19. So we're talking, 6, 8 times a night stopping breathing isn't abnormal. It's not good for you, but that's pretty amazing when you think about it. And what happens, of course, is your brain is deprived of oxygen, so your body brings you out of that deep sleep, so that it can gain control and make you breathe again. You don't necessarily wake up. But what happens is people fluctuate in and out. I don't know what big white thing is attacking me, but
I
there we
don't
go.
know either,
Scared me anyway. So you look over your shoulder and we have Go Sal, H3
so.
has too bad it wasn't their Halloween show.
Uh,
Anyway, the point is it's a very serious condition, but it's a very common
right.
situation.
Yeah.
And you used to have to go for a really extensive sleep test. You had to go into a laboratory. They hooked you up to a bunch of machines. People observed you through glass, two-way glass, and it was not at all comfortable. And the results were questionable because who can sleep in that kind of environment with all sorts of stuff. But what they do now is they use a machine that hooks a mask to you, and it's monitored remotely. And it comes with a little memory card. You take their evaluative machine, you sleep with it for a night is all it takes usually, and they can monitor it remotely, and they take a digital card that lays out all the data. And that's been around for, I don't know, 10 years or more. Right. So that type of monitoring is what we're talking about here, where the teams and the doctors can monitor the results remotely. They can gather information. They can use analytical tools to help them assess that. So it has all of the benefits of a hospital ward. Well, not 100%. There are some drawbacks, obviously. But in Alberta, they're supported by a special EMS service and specially trained personnel that work in the virtual hospital environment to help these patients. And they're really targeted at high system users. So people that repeatedly find themselves in the hospital, repeatedly find themselves being treated. And if you've ever been in the hospital, you know that a hospital has to be like the worst place to heal,
You
right?
bet. No. And how much more, settled and comfortable do you feel like being in your own house in your own bed, right? Like, that's got to be a huge, huge advantage to the healing process, right? And to know you got professionals who are monitoring where you're at as well. That's an amazing thing. So, yeah.
Well, and it turns out to be cheaper to the system, which is really important given, the financial burden that our healthcare system is under, not just in Alberta, not just in Canada, but worldwide. There's,
Mhm.
no developed country in the world right now saying, yay, our healthcare system is great and we're skipping along happy and people are getting treated right away. Just isn't the reality we're facing.
No. Hey, can I interject something that's a little off topic?
Yeah, go.
I have I don't snore anymore. I used to snore, but I don't snore anymore. Did I tell you how I'm not snoring anymore?
No, how are you not snoring?
Every night, I take a little piece of tape about this big and put it over my mouth. So then I have to breathe through my nose. And then you don't snore if you're breathing through your nose. And it's also good for your nose, acts as a filter for the air coming in, right? And then further, you don't get a dry mouth as well because you're again breathing through your nose as well. So, anyways, there's this Patrick, oh, what's his name? He's like a breathing expert, and he talks about how important for your health, or how valuable for your health if you get in the habit of breathing through your nose. And so that way, for 7 or 8 hours, whatever I'm going to sleep, I have that piece of tape on there. I breathe through my nose. I don't snore. I sleep more soundly, and overall, it's just good for my health in general. So, anyways, I'm not saying that's a replacement for somebody who has sleep apnea and needs a CPAP machine. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that for maybe people who have mild symptoms of snoring, that might be something that makes a difference for them. So
There's mixed reviews of that, and I know for me in my mask, and I'm trying to move to a full face mask because I found that due to congestion, whatever, that I am at night breathing more through there's my white friend back. Hello. And so I looked into that, and there's some people are really against it. They say, well, you could suffocate. I mean, we're talking about a tiny piece of tape. Other people say, well, that's ridiculous. And then people say, well, yeah, but you're unconscious. So, the whole bunch of stuff. So I think there's definitely, if you do some research into it, there's a lot of people who do it and find it very successful. There's professionals that say, don't do it, never do it, bad, bad, bad. And of course, they're professionals, so they have a right to give their opinion. And Allan wasn't saying, "Oh, go out there and tape your mouth shut."
It's not like taping your mouth, like tape around your hole. It's just one little piece of tape, about the size of a postage stamp, and you close your lips, put it over your lips, and you can still actually even talk with that, right? So it's not that, but as your caution is very appropriate, right? This isn't for everybody, but this is something that for some people is advantageous to do. For me, it's advantageous for me and my health, right? I'm not saying that's for everybody though. So
we're way off topic, but that's sort of our trademark, right?
yeah.
Talking about tape, as I said, so for whatever reason, maybe too many football helmets to the head, right in this part of the bridge of my nose, I get congestion.
Yeah.
And I used to buy, I don't want to say their name because they'll probably sue me, but I used to buy those snore strips that go
Yeah.
across the nose. And they're pretty cool. I mean, they got an adhesive on them. They're shaped so they have maximum this and that, and they've got hard plastic spines in them that pull your skin up and open up your nostrils. I've also seen a similar thing used by athletes, so they can get more oxygen in their nose when they're running or performing sports. But the problem with that little device is, and they sometimes come off, especially if you're sweating, is if a dog or a cat gets them in their throat, the little plastic backbone can expand and lodge itself in their throat. So it can be quite dangerous to pets. And as you know, we're dog people, so we have 3 dogs now in the house with our newest puppy. And I just decided, it helps me, but I don't want to put our animals at risk. And I thought, well, what can I do here? And maybe you were beaming me the whole tape thing. And I have a lot of medical tape from when I was, had after surgery. So I found a piece of medical tape that didn't irritate my skin, and I cut a small piece of it and I put it on one side, and then I put tension on it and then tack it to the other side. And then it does the same thing. The tension, now it doesn't have these fancy little plastic spines that pull upward, but the tension does open up my nasal cavity enough that it reduces breathing.
Cool.
And so instead of like, I don't know, $15 for 8 of these little strips, which, add that up every night of your life forever, it gets pretty expensive. A roll of, no name medical tape probably is good for a year or more. I mean, like you said, it's only a small, tiny piece. And for me, it works the same. No difference.
That's amazing tip. Yeah, that's great. Excellent.
No risk to the critters either. So
no risk to the critters, and saves money, and still does the same, still supports opening up those passageways to get better flow of oxygen into your body. Nice.
Well, and the environment, because I find with, people that, and that goes back to the home care situation, is that you use a lot less, you create a lot less waste in your home than you do when you're in a hospital ward. Because of course, every time somebody touches a patient, they need new gloves, they need this, they need, everything
Yeah.
has to be fresh, new, sterile, go. And of
Yeah.
course, at home, you have to use sterile things, but there's a lot, because you and the people in your environment are the only people that are handling it, there's a lot less rubbish created, which,
Yeah.
and it's often plastic rubbish, or, it can even be glass things that can be recycled. But I know these nose things, for me, it's a lot less garbage. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a little piece of plastic tape that is theoretically biodegradable, although I don't know if that's necessarily true. But yeah.
Well, that's a power tip right there, Scott.
Well, we
All right.
gave two, one each, right? We'll have to do a show on all the things you can do with tape that don't involve sticking things together.
All right, but back to the whole virtual
Yeah,
hospital room.
it's really interesting. The Canadian Journal of General Internal Medicine did a really interesting study. 125 high system users accounted for more than 600 hospital admissions. Okay, so 125 users accounted for more than 600 admissions, each averaging 5 per year, staying a median of 49 days, and using 8,000 bed days in total. That's
Wow.
125 people, right?
Wow. Yeesh. Okay.
That's crazy.
Yep, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we see a program like this where we're, moving things outside of the box, if you will, have benefits to the system and the people that they're treating.
So do they actually like connect like a heart rate monitor and a pulsometer and then remotely monitor it? Is that what they do?
Yeah, they have equipment, and actually a lot of equipment nowadays is built with tele capabilities, right? Because like an ambulance nowadays, as soon as they hook you up, or sometimes when they go to your your side in the field, the equipment they hook to you is already sending back to the hospital, right? So by the time you get that EMS treatment on the ground, and you know what, we should have Blake come on our show sometime and talk about that,
That's a
right?
great idea. Yeah.
Anyway, so Blake is the husband of a colleague of ours who is a firefighter slash EMS person. And yeah, we'll try and get him on the show to talk. Anyway, so yeah, and that's been saved countless lives, because the medical team at the hospital is already getting data while the patient is en route, and they can
Wow.
prepare things, and they can, so the technology's there, and modern, like cell phones, most of us walk around with a bunch of Bluetooth connections active on us anyway to do all sorts of things,
You
right?
bet. Yeah,
If you
that's
have a
awesome.
smartwatch, it monitors all sorts of these functions already,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's
And,
great.
and so it's when you're talking about 6,000 visits, that will buy you a lot of bandwidth in terms of equipment that can communicate back to the hospital, right? 8,000 bed days for 125 high system users,
You bet. Yeah.
you know? Um,
I mean, each of those 125, people who have high needs that way, I mean, easily you could put like whatever, $10,000 worth of monitoring beds, stuff in their home kind of a thing, and you'd still be way, way ahead of the game from a financial standpoint, and the person's in the comfort of their own home, right? So,
um, well, I'll give you a stat that'll put some of this in perspective, and
okay.
it's really interesting. So that study on 125 high system users, that if you look at it from above, that the cost of just those 125 people's needs would staff a full unit for high system users for an entire year in a traditional
Wow.
hospital.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know when I was in critical care in Japan, there were some days that my bill was over $20,000 for the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're talking huge money when you're talking about the economic resources to staff an entire fully staffed high needs ward for a year
Yeah.
for the needs of 125 users. So
Yeah.
and they're not reducing the care. And that was a problem when they rolled it out in England. Social media and some of the press said, oh, there's a hot story here. And they tried to say, oh, they're replacing hospitals to reduce costs and to save money, and the care is less quality, and they're not fulfilling their mandate, and it's just a way for them to shift their responsibility and liability, and really negatively. And that affected the launch in England, and delayed the opportunity to help patients and get a positive rollout. Here in Alberta and more Canada-wide, apparently it's been quite positive. And they're creating every day, every week, every month this goes on, they're creating more and more tools to further increase the care and to avoid crisis in that home hospital ward or that virtual hospital ward.
Wow. I was trying to do the math in my head, but instead I figured I busted out my calculator. If we're talking $20,000 a day, and then when you were in a hospital in Japan, that was like what, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be more than $20,000 a day now, but 20,000 a day at 365 days, right? That's $7.3 million, right? So
Yeah.
if you can do that remotely for a fraction of that cost and get people the same level of care and in the comfort of their own home, wow, that's a win-win-win, right? There's no downside to that.
No, so right now they have, and I was just looking. So there's the Edmonton Zone Virtual Hospital, and that's sort of the first one that we have going. I suggest people look it up. There's a lot of information on it. There's a lot of great news, a lot of great information, and some really interesting information on the side benefits of being treated at home. The Calgary Herald did a really interesting article on how being treated at home has benefits that go beyond the cost and the quality of care and the just the person feeling more comfortable. There's benefits to the family, there's benefits to the community, there's benefits to because the staff come from the community where, at a big hospital like the Edmonton University Hospital, these are, everyone there is, commuting, they're coming from farther away. The hospital is downtown for ease of use, or north-ish, where it is. And by placing it and spreading it out through the community, like the parking lot, I know at the Edmonton University Hospital, parking is almost impossible. Right.
Well, yeah, and you were also talking about from an environmental standpoint, how much, yeah, we'll think about it also in fuel, transportation, commuting costs, that kind of thing as well, right? So that's another advantage. Hey, I wanted to jump in here with something else, but I don't want to cut short on the rest of
that. Yeah, we can come back to it if we need to. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I have these colleagues, Rihanna and Robin, who have a company called Seamless Cares, and Seamless Cares have a program that is a new launch from the provincial government. It starts like April 1, so it starts like right away, and it is in-home care to support people in home who don't need medical care or don't have very minor medical care needs, but they need care in terms of taking care of their house, preparing meals, those kind of things, right? That otherwise they cannot do on their own, and that would, force them to be hospitalized and or live in a facility kind of a thing, right? So it's not just like home care relates to medical care in your home, and this is in-home care. So it relates to all the other things that are not medical care, but a person needs to supports so that they don't have to go into a facility. They can still age in place in their own home. I think it's an amazing program. It makes so much sense. And basically it's going to be where they're going to deliver this care the provincial government is paying a big chunk of those costs that the person needs, right? There's an assessment, what you need kind of a thing in order to stay in place and enjoy your life fully and enjoy your health fully. And then the rest of it, the patient would also pay 20% of the cost. But I mean, what a great program to help people stay in their own homes, have connectivity to their family and their loved ones and their fur pets and fur balls, fur babies. That's what I was trying to say. And do the things that are important for them, the activities that, whatever those activities are, right, that they can still engage in those. So I think it's an amazing program, and that's just starting as of April 1. So another way where, being a lot more flexible in how we care for people and get people the resources they need to have good lives. So, yeah.
Well, that's really interesting because it's the opposite end. And I found it really strange, unusual that the virtual hospital started with the extreme care end,
Yeah.
right? Like that, didn't that surprise you a little bit? Like,
Yes. Yeah. Because you wouldn't think that it would be able to pull that off, like in a remote setting. But like with technology being what it is, I can see how, like, that constant monitoring, your ambulance call away if they had to go collect the person and bring them in, but the rest of the time they can monitor vitals and keep on top of that. So that's an amazing program. And so it wasn't just a trial, it exists today. People are still.
the Edmonton Virtual Hospital Zone has been up and running since 2018 at least. You can go on and look under AHS in Alberta and search. You'll get a lot of information about it. The English case is a little bit different if you're interested in sort of how politics can get involved. Not saying that they weren't involved here in Alberta, I'm sure they were, but there was some, the support has been relatively positive here in Alberta. Not saying that there are detractors and people that have, legitimate claims. There are, liability issues. There are concerns about, neglect and those types of things. But the way, and maybe that's why they started at the high end of needs, right? Where people have a tendency, that do it yourself thing. Oh, I'm not going to get the carpenter and I'm going to fix it myself. And then the roof falls in and, that kind of thing. So when it comes to critical care, most people don't really think they can do it yourself, but maybe for minor things they can. But then this new initiative, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is an amazing program and it makes so much sense, right? I mean, all around, it's a win for everybody. Win for the patient, win for the healthcare system, win for those medical professionals, right, as well. It's just a win for the environment. Yeah, that's a great program. Wow.
Well, and I think that, and maybe we'll talk about it next show because it's another topic I researched that came out of this one, is dealing with the aging population worldwide.
That is excellent. And what a segue that we're probably out of time, aren't we, Scott?
We are. We're 2 minutes over, my friend.
Okay. Well, we did pretty good only being 2 minutes over. So take us home there, Scott.
From my very good friend, Allan Friesen, the acapellist, a heck of a guy, and myself, Scott Sweetman. You have a great week. Stay happy, stay well, and we'll see you next week, 7 p.m., same place on Jeff TV. Thanks, everyone.
Get a Matson.